Did you ever look at Goosebumps, maybe on Netflix, and think, gee, I wonder if there's anything that sticks out amongst the rest, if there's anything that could make me want to die, more than I already want to? I found it. It's called Strained Peas, and it's the worst. Literally the worst. See, I justified the title. But why? Well, you see, Strained Peas is one of those things that was made out of a short story in a book of short stories rather than one book in itself, so it's already stretched enough, or strange. Haha, jokes. It's originally from the compilation of Tales to Give You Goosebumps, the first one in the series, which is already a Goosebumps off-brand anyway. The episode opens with the main character, 12-year-old Nick, who looks like a middle-aged man with 2 divorces, and his friend Max, who acts like a fucking serial killer. They're awaiting the arrival of the newborn baby in the family, and Nick already has the usual anxiety that you would get with getting a new sibling when you're younger, and Max is just being a fucking psychopath because that's all Max does in this entire episode. Like, she has it out for the baby. She straight up is like,
a baby sister, that's the worst. She's all pink and cute and cuddly. How are you supposed to compete with that? I'm telling you, Nick, your life is over. The minute your parents come through that door with the new baby, they're not even gonna know you're here.
the more she says throughout the episode, the more it feels like she's acting out, because it's like a cry out for help, because she like secretly is living in a family with like 7 babies and she murdered all of them, so she like hates babies and she sleeps with their corpses or something. Like I sound like I'm overreacting, but as I go on with this episode, you'll see that I'm not. Well, the baby comes home and the parents are acting like it's a dog. They just brought a puppy, just acting like it's a dog, like it's not a human. Well, it's like a teddy bear or something. I mean, the parents are honestly creepy enough, but it's unintentional, and it just doesn't make any sense. Nick wants to get close to the baby, but everyone starts freaking out like he's gonna fucking break its neck. And it's a baby, so immediately it starts crying all the time. But Nick is the only one who really seems to be bothered by the crying. So I understand that this is obviously the baby is doing things and the kid is the only one who notices it's doing these weird things, and the parents are oblivious because they're parents in a Goosebumps thing, so they're obviously oblivious. But doing something normal, like crying, like a baby does, it just seems weird that they wouldn't notice that. It seems like they're overcompensating for the Goosebumps parents are oblivious thing, because it's like they usually notice normal things. They don't just completely live in their own bubbles. But anyway, smash cut to the nighttime where he has a helmet on his head and something stuffed in his ears because the baby is still crying, and for some reason he is the one that has to get up and comfort it, not his parents. He is the one that has to change his diaper, not his parents. Do his parents even get up? They just let Nick do it? And when he does, it fucking vomits like some pink shit on him. It like projectile vomits the shit that they put in the McDonald's food. So yeah, I know it's a staple to make the parents not know anything, but believe the kid, even though it might seem obvious to us what's really going on. It just happens to stop as soon as the parents walk in, but this is just overboard. It just pushes it to the point where they're like zombified and neglectful, and it's like they're in a cult or something. I was seriously expecting to see the twist that the parents were the real monsters, but oh no. When they first bring the baby home the very first time, it turns to look at Nick and it does a fucking raptor screech right next to the mom's ears, and she doesn't even seem to hear it at all. It's just beyond anything reasonable, even for this show. The next day after the vomit thing, Max comes over and Nick complains to her about how the baby is like being a shithead or something, and she says this, and I don't.
You're working way too hard at this Big Brother stuff. You're older than her. You always will be.
What does that mean?
You gotta call the shots. If you don't, she'll keep playing this little princess game forever.
What does that mean?
Here's that CD. Now we can play it at the science fair to show how music affects Stanley's time going through the maze.
So since Nick had to do the parents' job for them, they make up to him and give him a CD player. Now Nick is still concerned that the baby is fucking weird, and that's really what his priorities are, because it's just an invasive thing in the family, so he's getting creeped out because the parents don't seem to realize it. Max, on the other hand, says that this is a good thing because he needs to keep making the baby do more weird things to him so that his parents will feel bad and keep giving him free shit forever. Okay Max, why don't you and your denim hat just get the fuck out of here? Not only is Max weird, but everyone else interacts with her in a weird way too. It's like being with her in a certain radius near her is going to make you a fucking weirdo. Like, there's this one part where Nick's dad is just watching her get ready to go on a bike ride, and he's like, "Be careful, Max, that can be dangerous," and she's like, "Okay," and just leaves. It's like they're setting it up for a crash, like she's gonna crash her bike or something, and this was like a warning, like a Chekhov thing, but it's set up and it never happens. It's just a completely random thing.
Congratulations, folks.
Thanks, Sam. Hey, you be careful on that thing.
Good luck, Nick. Call you later.
I feel like I'm watching The Wicker Man, the Nick Cage one. Next, Nick wakes up in the middle of the night and I think he hears some noises in the kitchen, so he goes to see what's going on. And the fridge has been completely fucking destroyed. It's been emptied and a lot of the food is taken and the rest of it is just smashed on the floor. He fucks around there for a bit trying to figure out what's going on, and then hears the noises continuing in the living room and sees the baby watching TV and holding the remote. At first, she's just watching some racing, and then she switches channels, and I thought it was like a different type of racing, or like a car chase on the news or something, but it's just people crashing. It's just car crashes, the show. I don't know what this is. Is this a channel in this universe, people just dying? Oh yeah, the Snuff Channel, my favorite. Nick tries to grab the remote from the baby, but the baby is incredibly strong and she just pulls him close, and the best scene ever plays.
Your history, big brother.
This fucking looks like the annoying orange with like the lip movement, and the voice is just some random woman, like old Nancy from the corner shop decided to become a baby. She let go of the remote and the force causes Nick to crash into the TV, which happens just as the parents come down to investigate all of the noise, and of course they are immediately blaming Nick for it and tell him off, and that's it for the night. The baby never seems to outright try to kill him or actually harm him. It never wants to do something really serious. I think it specifically wants to just make him look like he's the one who's causing messes or like fucked in the head and destroying his life in like those little ways instead of like a literal sense, so that the parents will punish him. I mean, I get it. I guess it would be a bit too real in a Goosebumps story if the baby actually started trying to murder someone, but this plan only works because Nick has to come in to investigate these things. So the plan is just like really stupid. For example, the thing with the baby watching TV at night. She obviously wants to make it look like Nick is the one who trashed the fridge and is watching TV at like 1 a.m. or whatever, but it only works because he is the one who decided. He happened to wake up at that time and happened to go downstairs to investigate the noise. If he didn't hear the noise and just go to bed, would the baby just like get up and leave? So all of these plans just don't work. It probably would have made more sense if the baby tried to outright kill him, because at least it would be doing something and not just waiting for him to stumble in conveniently and do it himself. But then again, it always works in this scenario because Nick is a fucking dumbass. The next day, Nick tries to confront the baby and make it talk again, and it basically says the same shit as before, but Nick is secretly recording it this time with his weird professional proper businessman recorder. Like, he just has a banker's recorder with him. He holds the recorder right up to the baby's face and loudly tells her that he's going to show everyone that she spoke to him. And then she just throws some shit at his head and it bounces off and doesn't do anything. I think it's a glowworm or something. Why did you throw that? It does nothing. And what did she think it was going to do? But then the wind starts to blow and the door shuts and the room goes really dark and the baby's eyes start to glow. And I think it's implying that the baby is the one who like made the door shut, because it can like, it's a fucking airbender or it's like telepathic or something, telekinetic. Something dangerous about to happen. But then it cuts to commercial on a cliffhanger. But then when the show comes back, he's just talking to his parents in the kitchen as if that never happened. Like, did he just leave? What was the point of making it look like he was placed in danger and shutting the door when he just left? Did she even do anything? Does the baby actually have telekinetic powers? What was that? I feel like they just decided to put a cliffhanger in just for the sake of putting one in without thinking about what it might mean. Like, they just saw another show do it, so they were like, better do it, it's exciting, but then don't know why. So Nick plays the tape for his parents, and of course, as soon as it's time for the baby to speak in the recording, the tape distorts really heavily so the parents can't hear anything. The parents then get really fucking angry at him, like disproportionately weirdly angry at him, as if he like punched the baby or something instead of just recording it. And the mom like picks up the glowworm that she just has now and says, maybe the baby's eyes look like they glowed because it was this glowworm that was on the floor and nowhere near the baby's head. So I don't know why you would think that the baby's eyes were glowing when it was nowhere near the baby, but mom seems to think it makes sense. Then the parents just start questioning the kid's mental health right in front of him and asking if they should have him sent to like a madhouse or his grandparents just while he's sitting at the table.
I think it's time we talked about maybe getting you some help.
Dad, I don't need some head doctor. We have to find out who this thing belongs to before someone really gets hurt.
Nick, go to your room.
And then immediately afterwards they get a phone call from the doctor, and this is where things get really, really ridiculous. So Nick made a phone call to the doctor way earlier and asked if the baby that his family got was actually the wrong baby and there was a switch up or not, because he was just really concerned with how the baby's acting, I guess. And he calls back, straight up telling the parents in the call that the baby is a mix-up. So he straight up tells them, this is not your baby.
Did you call Dr. Campbell?
I figured if you took a closer look at the Grace thing, you'd find out it was weird and it's not ours. You didn't.
You did. You told him he gave us the wrong baby. Now he wants to meet us down at the hospital.
Tonight?
I told him we'd be right down.
And they leave the baby with Nick to go to talk to him about it. They don't take the baby with them, even though they just learned that it was a mix-up and it's not actually their baby. Not only that, but they were just questioning Nick's mental health and his capability to be alone with the baby without like hurting the baby. And they were like questioning whether or not it was healthy for him to be alone with the baby, so they just leave him alone with the baby right after they say that. And then the doctor is just like, I'll just talk to you right now in the evening after hours, which is completely unrealistic and really suspicious if you ask me. But the parents don't seem to notice and they just go anyway. I have no words. Yes, I do. Fuck. So they leave, and Nick reminds us all that he's a fucking idiot by sticking his finger into the baby's mouth and being surprised when he gets bitten. But then he just pulls like a bunch of giant baby cages around and barricades the baby in, and then he plays with his rat like there's nothing wrong. And I say rat or gerbil because the actual show doesn't know. It switches between rat and gerbil. Even the fucking script doesn't know what it is, so I don't know what it is either. Max comes over and she realizes that the CD that she lent Nick has been eaten. She thinks that the gerbil ate the CD, but then Nick is like, no, the baby ate it. They have a fight about these two very plausible situations, and Max calls Nick a liar and leaves. Again, I have no words. The rat ate my words.
It's bad enough to let your stupid rat eat my CD, but blaming on the baby? That's really lame.
So the baby breaks out of the cage and it starts running around like someone's holding it off camera and making it look like it's running around at like sonic speed, and Nick is just chasing the baby around. It's flawless and beautiful. So Nick just goes to hide under the bed and like wait for the baby to come in because he knows that it's gonna come in here, and he somehow like knows when the baby comes up on the top of the bed, and the baby knows that he's under the bed, so she eats the rat or the gerbil and then spits it out, and then it goes up to Nick and like crawls onto him, but then he just flicks it off of himself even though it's his pet, so he shouldn't be treating it like that. His parents come home and find the baby eating a lipstick and barricaded in the parents' room, and the parents just don't seem to give a shit, like this is a completely normal scenario. And again, they're still very, very detached from everything. They even confirm that the baby that they've taken care of and possibly bonded with over the last couple days is not their baby, and they need to swap this child that has been in their home, one that is God knows where, with who knows who, and they don't seem to give a single fuck about it. Like, aren't you emotionally distraught that you've been bonding with this child that wasn't yours, and that the child that was yours you might be alienated from, even though it's biologically your child, because it spent its time with parents that are probably doing entirely different things than you would want to do for your own child? Like, you just don't give a shit at all? So fucking Jeeves comes to the door and is like, Bab, and they give it to him, and he hands them theirs.
Baby.
And then just gets into a limo where his monster parents are. They start like celebrating that they have their real baby back. The baby in this scene in the limo looks fucking terrified. Like, the monster hand puppets are fucking freaking it out, and I feel for it. I'm so sorry, baby. So Nick holds his real sister and he's all happy, and he starts making goo goo gaga noises at it, and then it's a Goosebumps show. So this happens.
Hey, baby Chloe. I'm Big Brother Nicholas. Cut that baby talk and give me some food. None of that mushy junk.
Ah yes, the freeze frame. A true work of art. But of course, afterwards I was looking this up on IMDb and stuff, and I learned that apparently the parents and Nick are actually a real family in real life. So that's a real couple and their actual son. And yet they have zero chemistry. Is there something going on behind the scenes? Trouble in paradise? Also, the art is really weird in this episode. They show Nick's room a whole lot, and there's like some weird punk rocker dude. There's some yellow man who looks like he's smoking, and there's like a crude drawing of a family being fucking murdered and bleeding with the name like Zoe or something underneath. What kind of kid is this? But yes, this is the worst Goosebumps episode I have ever seen. The writing is really nonsensical. The transitions between each scene, I have no idea what's going on. They straight up just leave the cliffhanger without doing anything about it. Max is a serial killer, and her hat is trash. Nick is just a complete idiot and unrelatable in any way whatsoever. The parents are terrifying, but they're not meant to be, so it's even worse. And overall, this is just the most trash episode I've ever seen. But the most burning question that I have after all of this is, why the fuck is it called strained peas?